Hi, I am Tia Louise Townsend. I am doing the UAL Level 3 Diploma in Performance and Production Arts Acting. This is my evaluation of the Horror Walk. Evaluate how well you met your own needs as an actor within the project. In my context video, I said I need to work on my characterisation skills and how to play a scary role. I feel as though my characterisation skills have improved greatly over the last month of doing this project, and I successfully created a character which at the beginning I had no idea how to play. I have found myself stuck on being a scary clown and unable to see past the idea. However, I got stuck into it and I embraced it. I started coming up with a backstory for my character and began creating ideas. I feel now I have created a character and greatly improved. Although personally I find my characters more creepy than it is scary, so this is something I could potentially improve upon next time. I could do this by researching more and watching some videos for inspiration and storyline ideas. I said I would need to be able to manipulate my voice better to create a more believable character to suit separate roles. My plan to improve is to do vocal warm-ups before each rehearsal and my performance. I will also do some research and talk to Lydia and my peers about how to improve upon that. I feel as though I met this because I changed my voice to seem more flirtatious. I slowed my voice down as I had a calmer, quieter voice, however still projecting enough for the audience to hear me. As I was understudying, I had to play two contrasting characters, therefore I needed to be able to get changed quickly and change my voice and my body movement and facial expressions quickly. I feel as though I did this well, as I was told by an audience member they didn't realise it was the same person playing both characters. I took part in vocal warm-ups before the show and encouraged everyone to do so as well. I would say that I successfully met my needs as a performer in this show, however still leaving room for improvement. Evaluate how well you met your own needs in your production role. My production role was props. This included communicating with other actors to discuss what props they needed and if we had to buy them or if we could make them. This included finding links to products online and discussing how to make these props if we could make them. I made lists of all the props that each character needs or has, and then lists of what we needed to make and what we needed to buy. I kept these lists updated throughout the process by taking off if we had bought them or if we had made them. I clearly communicated with Coppice Theatre when they came in to do a workshop with us about making props. I told them what props we needed to be made and had discussions with them about their opinions on how we can make them. I had an idea about having boxes for everyone's individual props, so each person would have a box with their name on at the end of every rehearsal, they'd put their props back into their box, and then that way they knew exactly where their props were for the next rehearsal. I'm not sure if this was successful, as for some people they put all their props back into their boxes and they knew exactly where their props were and it worked really well. For other people they did not do it and they decided to look after their props in a different way. Personally, for me, having a box worked really well and I used it right through every rehearsal and then even after the performance. This kept all of my props organised and I know exactly where they were for me, so it worked really well. I feel like sometimes I can come across bossy and like I'm trying to take control of everybody. However, this isn't what I meant to do. I think one of the things I need improvement on is how to lead a little bit better. Actually turn being bossy into leading and explaining what needs to happen and why. And then hopefully this can show to other people that it could work. I hope to improve on this by having more leading opportunities in the future. I want to be a teacher, so in order to be successful, I need to change the way I say things so that they come across as not bossy, and so that people understand the reasoning behind. Evaluate how well you overcame the constraints of the project. Some constraints that we faced in rehearsals of the show include the absence of other actors, which meant it was hard to rehearse and put in where they should be in the show. We then had 2 actors drop out of the course, which meant that we needed to find 2 more actors to fill their spaces. One of these actors was due to be the wolf in my scene. This meant I had to change the story of it and what they were going to be doing so that a fill-in actor could easily pick up on the scenes. Even though we did fundraising activities to raise money for the props, set, costumes, we were still low on money, which meant that we couldn't spend as much as we had hoped and meant that we had to make more things. For example, clown shoes. They were a lot more expensive to buy them than it was to paper mache a pair of old shoes, which is what I did. We also had to use a lot of old materials to cover up notice boards along the corridors. Due to COVID, we had an actress unable to perform, therefore I had to understudy her, which meant I had to not only learn my scene really well and set up my scene and set up all the lighting and sound and everything for my scene, I also had to do the same for hers. This put me slightly behind on my scene because I was not only trying to sort out mine, I was trying to do hers as well. Our technician had a positive COVID test, which meant that he can no longer be our technician for the show. This resulted in us having to hire a technician and pay him to do our show, which meant there was less money for our budget. And it meant that we lost out on time because we had to redo some of the things that we had already done with the first technician. Overall, I think that we overcame these constraints well in the little time that we had. However, we were not as ready as we could have been if we still had our technician and our actors. To improve upon this, we could have a backup plan ready so that everyone, including the actors, knows what will happen if it was to happen again. For example, if I'd known that she was going to have COVID, I would have to understudy someone. I would have started learning her role sooner, and therefore I would be more prepared to play that role. Evaluate how well you met the needs of the audience. We set the age group to 14 plus. We did this with the aim of protecting the younger people. We have not put in age barriers. We feel as though they can be the judge of whether they are suitable to watch. Our main target audience is people in the working class. Therefore, we said it should have cost no more than £10 a ticket, as it must be affordable for them to come and watch. Due to COVID-19, people tend to be more reluctant to come out, so we can put COVID-19 restrictions in place in order to keep people safer and tell them about these things in safety briefing before the show. By setting the age group 14 plus, it helps us to eliminate any silly behaviour, which meant that it made the lives of the actors easier because they didn't have to deal with the silly audience members. It also meant that the younger people were protected more, and we felt all audience members were of an appropriate age to watch the show. Personally, I feel as though the tickets for the show were a little bit too expensive, as they ended up being £15 each. However, each ticket did include food, which meant that it was still affordable for audience members. We needed to have a deeper discussion as a group to decide how to make the show more accessible for all audience members, including those that are less able than others, and how we can keep this while not taking the experience away from them. The route the audience takes goes up a flight of stairs with a lift nearby. We initially had ideas of dressing the lift, which would mean that they would still have a good experience with us. If this was the case, a safety marshal would accompany them in the lift. The actor, in this case Tash, would have to stall the audience at the top of the stairs to allow for the audience member to catch up. This would include a potential script change without it changing too much. This definitely needs to be discussed more as a group. We completed a risk assessment to ensure the safety of the audience, actors, and anyone on the production team. Through doing this, we discovered that there were moments of darkness on the route which could be potentially dangerous to the actors, but especially to the audience who are unfamiliar with the route. We have now installed a better lighting plan without taking away the mood of these scenes. We have an escape route planned for if there was an emergency or an incident where it meant that an audience member would have to be escorted by a safety marshal to J166, where there will be first aiders to hand. We have flashing lights as part of our show, so an example of this is if someone, an audience or an actor, as we had an epileptic actor with us, were to have a seizure, they would be kept safe, and a first aider would be attended immediately. Evaluate how well you met the style of the production. I feel as though, as a group, we met the style of production, promenade and immersive really well, because we involved the audience in almost every scene, and we had the audience move from one scene to another by walking and being moved along by an audience member of the cast at every point. We asked the audience questions and spoke directly to them within the performance. In my scene of The Animal Tamer, I asked an audience member to come up and assist me, meaning that I had direct contact with an audience member. Each show, 3 times that, which meant 3 times that night. Many of the acts, such as Sylvie the Dancing Doll, kept complete eye contact with the audience. I was told by an audience member that this made them feel really uncomfortable, and I think the feel of the performance and the build-up of these moments, especially acts when the cast moves through the audience, it puts the audience on edge. We also met the theme with the atmosphere. In empty corridors, we also had eerie music and lights to set the theme throughout. Many of the acts were in dark rooms with dark coloured set and dim lighting. For example, Meg, the Jester, or to contrast that, in very bright lights, for example, the twins, Lottie and I. Evaluate how well you utilise research within this project. I believe I conducted sufficient research to comprehend the performance style and horror as a genre. When considering different companies and how they operate, I believe I could have further developed my research. I just found it difficult for the horror genre as there aren't many live performances or stage or horror companies. I feel as though I should have done more research into my character and how they acted. However, there wasn't really much to be found. But in general, I am pleased with the study I conducted and how it informed and altered the work that I produced. Evaluate yours and others' ability to use vocal and physical performance. By the end of the project, I was quite pleased with my vocal performance because it had improved dramatically from the beginning. I was able to effectively employ a character voice instead of my own to conduct a quiet speak in a higher pitch for the twin story. I felt that there were parts of my physical performance that could have been improved if I exaggerated my movements more. I feel as though I was nearly there, but I could have gone even further. I used the comments from my Animal Tamer piece to become more showgirl-like, which meant that I had to move my hands a lot more. I kept a big smile on my face for the majority of the time. I believe that our vocal abilities as a group were not what they should have been during the ritual and the end chase in the performance, because we failed to consider that the studio is very echoey, whereas outside the sound simply gets lost. Perhaps a skill to try next time is projecting in an outside space to other members of the cast, seeing if they can hear. Lottie and her ability to control her voice to meet her character role and go from incredibly beautiful and charming with softer tones to a gravelly voice to reflect the tragedy in the twins' narrative. This was someone who I thought produced a really excellent vocal performance. She can also project her voice adequately in outdoor areas where we work. Evaluate yours and others' abilities to learn lines. As the project progressed, I saw that my lines were continuously evolving and altering. I was constantly dissatisfied with my script and would alter it because I didn't like how my character was being portrayed by what I said. I was also told by Lydia that I was a director's nightmare because I kept changing my piece. As a result, I had to learn lines quickly near the end because I had only just finished writing them. However, I believe the main message of my piece remained the same, so learning the lines was easier because the words had a general meaning. I also understudied Trinity, which meant that I had to learn her lines in a matter of days. However, I believe that the majority of us were off script when we needed to be in order for the performance and to progress and develop. I believe it was difficult for people like Jasmine to learn their lines because they had so many, especially with the ritual and the performance with Ollie. Meg also did a fantastic job because she learnt her lines quickly because the director wasn't happy with how her character was being portrayed within the piece, so they had to keep changing throughout. Evaluate yours and others' ability to connect with your intended audience. My job was to build an emotional connection with the audience in order to shock them and make them uncomfortable, which I believe I accomplished fittingly. When I was the Animal Tamer, I'd go out to the crowd and smell them, while licking my lips and showing how happy and excited I was to be doing this. I had to illustrate my very special relationship with my equally creepy twin sister and how we were sewn together in the twins' performance. We had to examine how we delivered our lines because it had such a significant impact on our performance. It was the role of select members such as Holly and Tash to communicate with the audience, principally to feed them information about the storyline and to move them from space to space, which meant they must have had effective verbal cues and be someone from the audience they felt they could trust. Sylvie and Meg, for example, had to make direct eye contact with audience members in order to make them uneasy about their actions. It only adds to the sense of dread. I believe that improving eye contact and moving in a physically more bulky style to give the sense that they are someone to be terrified of could have helped to increase the terrifying component of some of their performances, such as Ollie. However, I believe that the characters we made were creepy in general. Evaluate yours and other success in using your production schedule. I don't believe we looked at the production schedule as a company since we first built it, so in future projects it will be critical to make better use of it and allow it to assist us in determining what needs to be done and when, so that we are prepared for our rehearsal process and production roles. The production schedule should be really essential. Thank you.